Hello! Hello! Did you miss me? I missed you.
I missed you, girl.
Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to just be getting ready, and I also want to talk about Okay.
That's that.
This is actually one of my favorite looks, and so yeah, I just wanted to share that with you, but also because I learned some things about the word love, or rather the words love, that I would like to pass on because I think it would be super helpful. If this is your first time on my channel, then I want to let you know, but if you are somebody that is coming back for more than you already know, the main purpose here is not just to work on outer beauty, but also to nurture inner beauty. And that comes with knowledge and growth. So, that being said, we're going to jump right into it. But, if you don't like me, for any reason, whatever your reason is, I'm not questioning your reason. There are probably a lot of good reasons to not like me. But here's the thing. If you don't like me, I would invite you to literally find
anything else to do
with your time. Because here's the thing. I don't know why you're worried about me, but you should be worried about why you're worried about me.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that being said, yeah. If you don't like me,
Bye-bye.
if you do, stick around, and here we go. Alright, so, jumping right into it, we are going to go ahead and grab some primer and apply it to close up some of them pores. Okay.
In case you were wondering, I'm still almost out of primer.
Alright, so, my very first YouTube video, which if you didn't watch it, I'll link it down below. But in my first YouTube video I did a Q&A, and one of the questions was this. If you could instantly become an expert in anything, what would it be and why? Communication. And honestly, communication has caused a lot of issues in my own life, which is the reason that I said that. And I feel like communication is an issue for most people. So one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about today while we
get ready, just us squirrel friends, you know,
is communication, but more specifically,
Love.
and here's why. Because I feel like part of the issue with communication isn't so much we have like all of these crazy slang words and stuff for whatever, because first of all, can anybody, if you know the answer to this, please leave it in the comments below. Where did stan come from? We stan them? Like,
I don't get it.
and I've been too embarrassed to even ask, but
girls gotta know. So let me know.
But part of the issue isn't so much that we have all of these weird slang terms for things now, but I feel like it's just because we don't legitimately say what we mean. And that isn't necessarily an issue for modern language, but just language as a whole as it has progressed over time. One of my favorite things is something called etymology, which is just a really fancy word for the study of words and where they come from, their origins and stuff like that. Like a lot of the words that we use today have like rooted in Latin, which is where a lot of language comes from, which is a dead language now, but the love languages especially, like Spanish, French, Portuguese, they all have deep roots in Latin, as well as some in Greek and whatnot. And so, as you may know about me, if not, I grew up in the church, and so Christianity and religion was a heavy influence in my upbringing and my education, and to that extent I learned a lot about words and their Greek meaning, because a lot of the words from the Bible was written in 3 different languages: Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. So that's where we're going to go with our talk today about love, is how Greeks talked about love, because I think it's weird, kind of, and maybe you've never thought about it this way before, but it's weird that we use the same word to describe the most important person in our life and how we feel about them, and use that same word to describe how we feel about, like, a really good breakfast sandwich, or like your favorite restaurant. And while that might not seem like something that causes a whole lot of confusion in everyday life, I think that the overarching idea of us not saying what we actually mean, but relying on people to read between the lines, causes us a lot of issues in our life. At least for myself, it has. And so, let's go ahead and break down what love meant in Greek. Like I just said, I think it's weird that we use the same word to describe multiple different feelings, and the Greeks were a little bit more concise. The Greeks had 4 words for love, so let's start kind of in order. So the first word for love is stergos, and this is like a parental type of love. The kind of love that leads to protection. We protect those things that we love, kind of like a parent protects their child. And that's a different kind of love than, let's say, for example, the next one, philos, or philia, which is what we have for our friends. Brotherly love, and this is where we get the word Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And so even just in between those two, there are quite a bit of difference. Now, on the same level, they kind of bleed together just a slight bit, because if you've ever had a friend, which I hope that you have, if you haven't, I'll link one below. But if you've ever had a friend, you know that the closer that you get, then you start to exemplify kind of that stergos love, that protective love where you will protect them. It's not just so much brotherly affection. And then you have eros, which is romantic love, or the type of love that we have for a significant other. It's so hard to talk while multiple times just stabbing yourself in the eye with a sponge if you've never tried it.
Give it a shot.
Eros is the root of that, but most oftentimes when it was used in the Greek it was erotis, which is where we get the word erotic, because most of the time the love that is romantic is also very sexualized, which doesn't necessarily have to be the case. There was somebody who was very smart, you may have heard of them, that suggested that the love that we have in a romantic sense that becomes sexualized over time doesn't necessarily start with a sexualized mindset. And the person that came up with that idea, his name was Plato, and that's where we get the term platonic relationship. And then the 4th kind of love is agape, which you may have heard of. That's probably the one that's most known in its original word of it. But that is the word for unconditional love, which is most commonly in the Greek referring to the type of love that one would receive from the gods, or at the time God in Christianity. the interesting thing is that the closer that two people get on the spectrum of a relationship is that the more, I guess, things evolve and it becomes all-encompassing. The relationship that you have with your significant other, as time goes on, is going to go from something that starts as maybe brotherly affection, and then you start to become more protective of this person. And then, of course, you can start to develop feelings. And then the closer that you get to each other in that relationship between the two of you, the more all-encompassing and the closer to unconditional love you get, which is... Woo! Woo!
Oh, we are exercising the demons.
Alright, it's that time for our brows, so I'm gonna need you to... Shh, just let me work, okay? How does that look to you?
My precious, my precious.
Brows done. So, what do these words in Greek mean for us as a whole? Well, I think most specifically when we start to talk about the way that we feel about other people or the emotions that we have, the thing that I've learned from knowing the fact that there are these different ways of looking at it is that we need to be a little bit more concise, not only with other people, but with ourselves about what our intentions are or about what our emotions actually are telling us. Now here's something I'm going to be very clear about, and this is going to help you if you are anything like me and you become overly emotional very easily. And that is, your emotions should always have a voice, but never have a say. Now what do I mean by that? Your emotions are irrational. They're based on one perspective and they happen almost instinctively because they are very reactive. In life we have actions and then we have reactions, and oftentimes, at least for myself, I fall more on the side of reacting rather than acting, and that is never good. But to completely discredit our reaction or our emotions and to write them off is only doing ourselves a disservice, because our emotions tell us a lot about ourselves that oftentimes we are trying to hide or trying to mask. For example, I had a close friend of mine, and there was a situation that went down where lines were blurred and they thought one thing, I thought another thing about how we were interacting with each other. Like they thought that I was like trying to be more than just friends with them, and I wasn't, or at least I thought I wasn't. But there came a time when they sent me a message and they were like, hey, we just need to like chill and not like see each other for a little bit, just kind of like refocus things and see where life's at, I guess. And I
Freak the fuck out.
like bad, like
It wasn't good.
I think I'm gonna contour today. Let's give it a shot, huh? With this e.l.f. contour palette. And I'm just gonna take a small bit of this shade right here. kind of patchy, to be honest. So, where were we? Okay, I was freaking out. And I remember sitting outside and kind of just like screaming out loud and like angrily text messaging, and then like looking back at it, that emotion shows my codependence in that moment, or at least it revealed my codependence to me later. And I think that happens so much to us, that we become so focused on in the moment and what's happening right now, because our perspective is, we put blinders on when something traumatic or big or whatever happens in our life. We put these blinders on and we become so focused on just this perspective that we forget that perspective is not reality.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Are you seeing that?
Oh
My gosh.
There's a reason it's one of my favorite palettes. As always, I'm going to go ahead and take a transition color, apply it with a blending brush to the outer area of my eye. So here's the thing, you may have heard the phrase perspective is reality, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And here's what I mean by that. When you are looking solely from your perspective, you are not seeing the entire picture. That can become problematic, due in part to the fact that if you don't see the entire picture, then you're only acting on part of the information. And so looking back, like when I think about that time, like there was a very specific, I don't want to say, like the way that it was phrased was very temporary. And what I mean by that is that there wasn't like this end all be all to the friendship, but looking back, that's how I was taking it. So I guess my challenge to you is that as you are in relationships and in friendships and whatever relationship is most important in your life, is that you would be clear with yourself by not just the way that you analyze situations and view things from different perspectives, because that's the thing you got to remember too, is that
That's super bright.
What the hell?
There we go. Wow.
and I realize that part of this is looking patchy, but I don't know if you're new to makeup where you are at in your makeup journey, but at least for me in my experience, it never comes together till the very end. So just hold on. I guess the challenge that I would put in front of you is that you would be honest with yourself in the way that you communicate, not just with other people, but with yourself. When you're thinking about your emotions and you're thinking about the things in life, particularly relationships, because I feel like that's where we all kind of struggle with, that you would have enough courage to be honest with yourself about what you want out of life, about what your intentions are, about just everything. Because here's the thing, a lot of times we are not dishonest necessarily, but we just leave out parts of the truth, or we conceal things because of the fact that we are afraid of other people's reactions. There have been multiple times in my life where I have thought that people were going to react a lot more harshly than they would have if I would have just been honest. And they did react harshly, but that was to the inconsistency of truth, I guess we could say. Alright, I'm going to go in with a dark brown shade just to deepen the outer corner just a little bit. Just like that. So, here's the thing that you need to remember too. And this is something that I failed to remember as I was going through these situations in my life, was that if the person is really as important to you, or if you are really as important to them as they are to you, they are going to understand where you're coming from regardless of what the information is. If that makes sense. Because the people that I've been closest to in my life have always come with this level of understanding that sort of surpasses everybody else that I have encountered with. And that doesn't make them special objectively, that makes them special subjectively, because it's definitely based on my perception of them as a person. But that's why there are so many different people and we all click with different people, and just because you don't get along with one person doesn't mean that you're better or they're better. It doesn't mean anything. We're all just different. We vibe differently. Oh my gosh. Are you seeing that?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Now, if you didn't see what I did there, when I took the packer brush and I put the shimmer all over the lid there, I kind of brought the middle corner, or the inner corner, up to meet where the arch of that crease fades together, so that it's kind of like the light hits here, casts a shadow in this area. Does that make sense?
I hope that makes sense.
Should we do the under eye? Should we do a little bit underneath the eye? It's your call.
Okay, we'll do it.
First, I'm gonna go in with the ColourPop gel liner in the shade Get Paid. It's this like bronzy shade, which I am loving. Look at this.
Bitch, you better work.
And so that really just did that. Okay. So now I'm gonna take a liner brush and I'm just going to kind of dust that right underneath the eye. Loving it so far. How are you feeling about it? Are you following along at home? If you are, make sure you click a picture, post it on Instagram, tag me in it, I want to see. I think I'm just going to take a darker red shade and kind of deepen up the outer edge. Much better.
Much better.
And now
Meow hunty.
we are going to pop some white on that inner corner because I
Live.
Alright.
Now it is time for some mascara.
I know it seems like I hate eyeliner because I don't really do it a whole lot, but that's because I have hooded eyes, and so sometimes it's hard to see that beautiful shimmer color if I have a lot of eyeliner on, but I love a good wing liner, girl. Girl!
Oh, girl! Oh, girl!
Alright. And now, I'm going to pop a little lipstick on. Anyway, like down to the bottom of the barrel of this shade, but we are almost complete. I'm gonna go ahead and should we do some blush? Should we do some blush? Okay. Blush. I got this little Tarte blush in the shade Feisty. Cause
you know your girl feisty.
just a little bit, you know?
Just a little bit. Okay. Now it's time for my favorite part of the day.
And that is
Highlighting.
Wow.
What shade should we go with? I think what I'm gonna do is take this Legendary, which is this pinky shade, and then I'm gonna put just a little bit of either King Tut or a Sarcophagus over top of it, because that really diffuses it, and I don't want like pink, but we might just keep it as is. Cover girl, with that step in your walk. Hey Joe, let your whole body talk. Womp 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 womp.
I could highlight my face for hours, but would you watch it? Probably not.
Hey Joe, make your whole body walk. Womp 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 womp. So this is the look all finished up. I think it turned out great. Good call with that underneath the eyes. Not something that I usually do because a lot of times I'm trying to keep my eyes looking open, but this is just very sultry, very like sexy. I'm just feeling myself today, and it's all because of you, so
thank you, girl.
alright, well, I hope you learned something. I hope that you had fun hanging out with me and getting ready. If you followed along and you did this look, post a picture, tag me in it. I want to see them beautiful faces, girl. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content and you want to see more of it. I would be forever grateful. It would mean the world. And I think that's it. Speaking of love, I'm going to go eat some pizza rolls. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Thanks for checking out. Wait. If you enjoyed what the topic was about today and you want to listen more about more in-depth stuff like that, a little bit more serious of conversation, do not forget to check out my podcast, The Gift of Gab. It is on basically anywhere that you would listen to podcasts, or you can always find the link if you're following me on social media. So make sure you go do that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Thanks for checking out my content here on YouTube. If it brought value to your life in any way, please subscribe so that you'll be notified when I upload more. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, @GayBrianTheGuru for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Until next time, stay inspired and you'll find what you're looking for.